You don't know their names. Most of them were never found. And the people who went looking, some of them didn't come back either. There are places on this planet where the forest doesn't behave like a forest, where compasses spin without reason, where sounds come from directions that don't exist, where search teams walk in and find nothing. Not a body, not a shoe, not a broken branch, just silence where a person used to be. Tonight we're going inside 5 of them, not to theorize, not to speculate. We're going to follow the last known movements of real people, what they saw, what they reported, where they were last standing. And then we're going to watch the trail go cold. We start in Japan, in a forest that sits at the base of Mount Fuji like a wound in the earth. Aokigahara, 14 square miles of ancient woodland growing over hardened lava flows. The trees here don't grow straight. The roots spread sideways, crawling across the rock like fingers. The canopy is so thick that in the middle of the day in summer, you can stand inside Aokigahara and believe it's night. The forest is so dense that it blocks wind, almost completely. People who've walked inside describe a silence so total it feels pressurized, like the air itself is holding still, waiting. The Japanese call it jukai, the sea of trees. And for centuries, the people who lived near it treated it the way you treat something you respect too much to touch. You don't go in, you don't camp there, you don't build there, you pass it and you keep moving. In 2008, a man we'll call Kenji took a train from Tokyo to the town of Fujikawa-Guchiko. He was 34 years old. He had a job he hadn't shown up to in 3 weeks. He had a phone he'd stopped answering. He bought a bottle of water at a convenience store near the station. The clerk said he seemed calm, not distressed, calm. The kind of calm that comes after a decision has already been made. There is one main trail into Aokigahara. It's marked. It's walked by hundreds of tourists every week. Kenji didn't take it. He went in through a gap in the tree line about 400 meters east of the main entrance, a gap that isn't on any map. The last image of Kenji on any camera is a parking lot timestamp, 11:47 a.m. He's walking toward the tree line. He doesn't look back. Volunteers searched for 9 days. They used dogs. They used aerial imaging. They found his water bottle 11 meters inside the tree line, still sealed, placed carefully upright against the base of a tree, as if he'd set it down and meant to come back for it. They never found Kenji. That's not the part that stays with me. The part that stays with me is the water bottle, placed carefully, upright, like someone who was still thinking about coming back. Aokigahara has a patrol now. Rangers walk the main trail daily. At the entrance, there are signs, phone numbers, messages. But the forest has no fence. It has no boundary you can mark on a wall. And every year, people find the gap in the tree line and they walk through it. And some of them don't walk back out. The lava rock underneath means the ground is full of hidden voids and drops. Magnetic iron in the rock interferes with compasses. This is documented, measurable, real. People who navigate by compass get turned around inside Aokigahara in ways that feel impossible. They'll walk what they believe is a straight line and emerge 2 kilometers from where they intended. The search coordinator who led the 2008 effort said the hardest part wasn't the searching, it was the silence. No birds in certain sections, no insects, no wind, just the sound of their own breathing, and the feeling which he described as physical, like pressure, that something nearby was paying attention. We're going to keep moving because the next forest is in the middle of Europe. Hoia-Baciu forest sits just outside Cluj-Napoca in northwestern Romania. It's been the site of documented paranormal research since the 1960s. When you strip away the ghost hunters and the TV crews and look only at what's been formally reported, what remains is genuinely hard to explain. The trees in the center of Hoia-Baciu grow in shapes that botanists struggle to account for. Not poetic shapes, structurally wrong. Trunks that spiral, trunks that bend at 90-degree angles and continue growing horizontally. And in the very center there is a clearing, a perfect oval of ground where nothing grows. Not grass, not moss, not weeds, just bare earth, as if the ground there has forgotten how. In September 1992, a group of 5 university students entered Hoia-Baciu to collect soil samples for a research project. They were methodical. They had a plan. They entered at 9 a.m. with equipment, notebooks, and a camera. They were expected back by 2 p.m. At 6:47 p.m., 4 of them walked out of the forest. 1 woman was not with them. The 4 who emerged were disoriented. One of the men couldn't remember the last 2 hours. One of the women had a rash across her left forearm, a rash the doctors described as a chemical burn, though she'd touched nothing that could have caused it. Their notebooks were filled with observations up to 11:23 a.m. and then blank. Subject 3 was found 3 days later, 200 meters from where she'd last been seen. She was dehydrated. She was unharmed. She had no memory of the 3 days. None. Not fragments, not impressions, a complete blank. She said the worst part wasn't not remembering. The worst part was knowing that something had happened. She could feel the shape of it, like a word you can't quite reach, and being completely unable to access it. The soil samples from the central clearing showed trace compounds that don't occur naturally in Romanian soil. The lead researcher published his findings, and then, when asked to present them at a conference, declined. He said he wasn't prepared to defend something he couldn't explain. If you're watching this and you feel like dropping a comment about what you think happened in that clearing, do it. Because I genuinely don't have an answer, and neither does anyone with a PhD. We're moving now, out of Romania, across the Channel, into England, which sounds less threatening and is somehow worse for it. Epping Forest sits on the northeastern edge of London. 12 square miles of ancient woodland that has been there in some form for thousands of years. Romans walked through it. Saxons named it. Kings hunted in it. It is one of the most historically documented forests in the world, and it has been swallowing people for just as long. A jogger in 2003, a cyclist in 2011, a retired school teacher in 2019 who parked her car at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday and was found 4 days later in a section of the forest she had no reason to be in. She was found sitting against a tree. She was alive. She said she'd been walking for what felt like 20 minutes. People who get lost in Epping Forest frequently report the same thing. The forest got quiet. The path disappeared, not by branching, but by simply ceasing to exist. And when they tried to retrace their steps, the landscape behind them looked different from what they remembered. Not dramatically different, subtly different, like a room where someone moved the furniture by 6 inches while you weren't looking. There is a section of Epping locals called the Blind Quarter, though you won't find that name on any official map. The canopy closes so completely that GPS signals weaken to unreliability. If you stand still and listen, the forest sounds, birds, wind, distant traffic, fade out in a way that feels less like distance and more like a door closing. I'm not telling you to go there. I'm telling you people have, and the ones who came back turned around the moment the sound went away. The ones who didn't turn around, we have a missing persons report and a date. Stay with me. We've got 2 more forests, and the next one, nobody who lived near it would enter for any reason for centuries. The Daintree Rainforest in Queensland, Australia, is the oldest continuously surviving tropical rainforest on Earth, 135 million years old. It was here before the dinosaurs were gone, before the continents finished moving. It predates flowers, it predates birds. The Kuku Yalanji people, who have lived alongside it for at least 50,000 years, have always known where the boundary is. Not a physical boundary, a known line, understood and respected across generations, beyond which you don't go alone. The elders don't tell horror stories. They say, with the same tone you'd use to describe a fact of geography, that the deep forest keeps what enters it. That it always has, that this is simply its nature, the way a river's nature is to flow downhill. In March 2017, a British backpacker named Lewis entered the Daintree alone, despite being told, specifically and clearly, not to. He was 26 years old, experienced, physically fit. He had a GPS device. He had a satellite communicator. He left at 7 a.m. and was reported missing at sundown when he hadn't returned. The GPS device was recovered. It showed a clean line heading northeast into the forest, normal pace, stopping occasionally. Then at 11:34 a.m., the GPS showed him stopping completely. For 4 minutes and 11 seconds, he stood still in one spot. And then the device stopped transmitting. Not out of battery. It had 71% charge remaining. It simply stopped sending data. The last coordinate it logged was a point the Kuku-Yalanji have a name for it.
Translates roughly as the place that listens.
Lewis was found 6 days later, 400 meters from that last coordinate. He was alive, severely dehydrated, and unable to account for the 6 days. He didn't describe a blank. He described something worse. A memory of being somewhere that wasn't the forest, a place completely silent and completely still, a place he knew, with a certainty he couldn't explain, he was not supposed to be in. He said, the 6 days felt like 6 minutes. He said the hardest part of recovery was the persistent feeling, which he still had months later. That part of him was still standing in that silent place, waiting for something to happen. The Kuku-Yalanji elder consulted during the search said only this: the forest returned Lewis because Lewis had nothing it needed. I've read that sentence 30 times. I still don't know what to do with it. One forest left, and this one doesn't have a single dramatic case. What it has is a pattern so consistent that the individual stories stop mattering.
Gifford Pinchot National Forest in Washington State. Over 1 million acres of old-growth forest in the Cascade Range.
Hundreds of thousands of visitors every year. Established trails, a well-funded park service. Since the 1940s, Gifford Pinchot has logged more unexplained disappearances per visitor than any other national forest in the Pacific Northwest. Not total numbers per visitor, adjusted for traffic. It loses people at a rate that doesn't match its infrastructure, its terrain, or its weather. The cases share a pattern. They tend to happen near water, not in it, near it, streams, rivers, the edges of lakes. The people who disappear are often experienced outdoors people, and the ones who are found are almost always in locations that don't correspond to any rational path from their last known position. There's a ranger, now retired, who worked Gifford Pinchot for 22 years. He said over his career, he participated in 43 search and rescue operations in the forest. 31 had outcomes he could explain, 12 he could not. Not how the person got lost, not where they were found, not what they reported when they were recovered. He said he stopped trying to find explanations around year 15. He said the forest had a logic he wasn't equipped to understand, and he learned to work within it rather than against it. He said the most important thing he ever learned in 22 years was this: when the forest goes quiet, completely quiet, no birds, no wind, nothing, you turn around. You don't investigate. You don't wait to see what happens. You turn around and you walk back the way you came, and you don't stop until you can hear the world again. He said he taught every new ranger the same thing. He said not all of them listened. 5 forests, 5 countries, dozens of people whose trails go cold in places where trails shouldn't go cold. What connects them isn't the supernatural, or at least I can't tell you it is. What connects them is the absence of explanation, the specific, documented, repeatable absence of explanation in places where explanation should be easy to find. We're good at finding things. We have satellites and dogs and thermal imaging and people who do this for a living. And still, in these 5 places, things go missing and stay missing. People go in and don't come out. People come out and can't tell you where they've been. The water bottle placed upright against the tree. The GPS that stopped transmitting at 71% battery. The clearing where nothing grows. The retired school teacher who walked for what felt like 20 minutes and lost 4 days. The ranger who learned after 22 years that the only right response to silence is to leave. I don't know what lives in these forests. But I know this. The people who survived all did one thing the others didn't. They paid attention to what the forest was telling them. Not to the dramatic things, the strange lights, the figures in the trees, the sounds that don't belong. To the quiet, to the moment when the world stops making noise and something else starts paying attention to you. That's the warning. Every culture that has ever lived near one of these places has said the same thing in 100 different languages. The forest goes quiet before it takes something. Now you know too. If this is the kind of video you stay up too late watching, you're in the right place. Subscribe. There are 5 more forests I didn't have time for tonight, and one of them is within driving distance of more people watching this than you'd want to know. That one comes next.